Hello, everyone. Here we are again for another masterclass, another high masterclass. This one is the masterclass in which our main man is back. David Marx is here with us.
Yes.
Today we are starting summer officially with 16 tips to improve your OutSystems front end. I will advise you before we start this presentation, or David start this presentation, to go and read an article that David has wrote about this topic. I will advise you; it will be helpful for you to read it while you are listening to this presentation. And with that said, hi David, how are you?
Hello, João. I'm well, thank
Uh,
you.
uh, so, can you start this presentation?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So, hello, everyone. So today I will share 16 tips to improve your OutSystems front end. I don't say that will be the main tips, but in my consideration, I think are 16 important tips. Okay. Some of them more technical, another more process, but I think it's important to know what we do at High Interactive and how we do it. So, first of all, the atomic concept should be used. Probably if you saw the previously masterclass this year and in the end of the past year, we talk many times about atomic design and atomic concept. Okay, we are promoting this concept at Interactive and also in our clients. So when you are designing a screen, implementing a screen, you need to think atomically. This means that you need to follow the concept about elements, components, and screens or sections. Okay, everything in your screen need to be isolated and can be only two type of pieces. HTML elements natives as drop downs, titles, text, buttons that are from your browser. Typically are the widgets from the platform. Okay, not everything, but almost 80% are HTML components, native components, and the others components. So not HTML components. We call it components from OutSystems UI, from OutSystems platform, the widgets, and your custom UI components. Okay, so your screen need to be implemented based on this concept. Only components to promote building for the future. OutSystems say this many times, but to be easier, maintain and promote the reusage components. Okay, as you can see in the image, so when you are thinking on a screen, it's like you can remove a piece to implement another feature or add another feature, adding another piece. Okay, something like this. Second, develop new UI components without business logic. Okay, this can be complex, but it's the main key. As you probably already know, OutSystems UI have this concept. You can use drop-downs, cards from OutSystems UI. All UI components from OutSystems UI can be used in many concepts. You can sell cars, you can use cards or drop-downs or lists in your website, but also you can use in your mobile applications, in your internal apps. So the components that you have in OutSystems UI and also in the widgets from the platform don't have business logic associated. So when you are creating your components, you need to think like this. I can give you some examples. For example, when you are creating a component, need to be 90% of times a web lock. Okay, and you can have placeholders and input parameters to fill the data, the business logic. Okay, so when you want to add a list, a title to your component, a name of your product need to be by an input parameter or by a placeholder. And when you are creating input parameters or placeholders, try to be try to be generic. For example, as you can see, we have a placeholder to set the product name or the username or the title block. But it's common to add a name convention, a name coding as a title, because you can use your card, your component, to show a user profile, or to show a product resume, or to show an article blog. Okay, and can be the same component, use it in many different use cases, in many different business cases. Okay. 3, use main wrapper to easily control all children. Okay. This means when you are creating a weblog to represent our components, one of the main tips that we suggest and we do for all components is creating a container and add all elements inside. This means you cannot need this container, this main wrapper, as you can see in the image, the my cards, my iPhone cards. This is my main wrapper. I don't need it for now, but imagine in the future I need to find my component in the HTML. Will be easier. Search for my cards. If I want to change the state, if I want to control 2 elements inside, for example, if I want to disable the title and description, I don't need to set styles directly to the title and description. What I do is add a class on our main wrapper, and based on this class, I can affect each child that I want. Okay, the title, description, the left action, the button, the image. Okay, try add the main wrapper for all your components, because probably you don't need now, but in the future will be helpful. Okay, and change this type of HTML structure in the future will be hard. Next one, add extended class parameter to all UI components. Okay, OutSystems UI and also the platform already do this for almost 100% components, not 100%, because I shared the tip in the forum and still have missing some components. Okay, I hope OutSystems will solve this in the future. For example, the HTML elements don't have this type of input parameter and need to be helpful. So imagine if you don't have extended class in your component, and in some use case, you need to set a margin on the right, on the bottom, between components. How we can do it? We need to add a wrapper, a new container for our component in the screen, and set the margin using this container, not exactly our component. So this is a use case where I can ensure that probably 80% of times you need it. You need to set margins, you need to set some styles, not margins, sometimes apply some specific rules, some specific CSS. You can add an extra class in this input parameter and go to the team and add these specific CSS rules, okay? So don't forget, if you want, when we are creating a new component, UI component, add to all components the extended class, okay? And as you can see in the image in the bottom, it's like had this class on the main wrapper. So that's one of the reasons we need the main wrapper to all our components. Next one, promote CSS naming convention. So this is a basic strategy for all teams and for all developers, but we suggest using this exactly one name convention, okay? I'm not saying that you need to follow our naming convention that I will share in the next minutes, but try to use only one. Why? Because sometimes you are not available to change the code, and the other ones need to understand what we did to complete the tasks. In the future, to maintain, probably we will be another guy development and change your code. So to be understandable, will be easier to know each naming convention we are using, and at High Interactive, we are using the BEM, the naming convention. Okay, we are using BEM because it's easier to understand, probably the most usage. And for example, for new members, the first day we say, okay, we are using CSS BEM naming convention, spend 10 minutes to understand, will be easier. One of the reasons why we use, it's because the naming convention, it's connected with the HTML. As you can see in the image, we have a card class. It's our main wrapper. We have the card __ image. It's a child. It's one of the children from our main wrapper. So if I don't have access to HTML, I can know that inside our card, we have an image. Okay, that's why this naming convention is very helpful when we are editing the CSS. And as you know, we don't have access to the source of through HTML, only after rendering from the platform. And we can implement some components without seeing HTML with this naming convention, okay? But to explain, cards on the main wrapper, cards __ image for children, and as you can see, cards __ button -- success. So we have two types of naming convention: __ for childs, -- for states. For example, if I have a button -- big, button -- large, but it's the same, -- small, sorry. Pay attention to one thing. For states, don't use styles associated. So don't use something like button -- red, because red is a color. It's not a style. It's a value for a style. You can use, for example, button -- success, and probably success will be green. But we cannot associate size styles specific to the class, okay? Because imagine if you are using button -- red, in the future we want to set blue, and we are using a class -- red with the value blue, okay? Pay attention to this. Try to be agnostic, okay? Next one. Prevent reflow and repeating with the CSS best practice. We have previous masterclass, I think was the first one of this year by Pedro Oliveira, and also we have a blog in our website article where we explain better in detail what is repeating, what is the reflow, and how we can improve. Okay, but in this case, only to resume, reflow and repeating, it's like when you paint. For example, from the OutSystems UI base theme, we have blue buttons. And on top of it, you customize your app with red blue buttons. This means that your browser, when you open your app, it's painting blue, and after this, painting red. This means that we are doing repeating. We need to try to avoid this. So avoid, the user don't see this, but the browser rendered 2 times. So it's a process that we need to avoid, okay? Only to resume. So I left an example here. As you can see, what I want to do, it's like set a border between list items. So I have a list, and I need to set a border bottom between list items, excepting the last one. It's common to do it, border bottom to all list items, and another exception, border bottom last child, for the last child, border none. So we are using 2 rules. The first one, set border bottom to all childs, and another rule to remove the border bottom from the last one. We are doing repeating because in the first moment, the last one also have border bottom, and in the second time, we remove the border bottom, okay? What I'm suggesting, if you export the features from CSS, you can avoid this type of repeating and reflow. In this case, we have a rule, all list items inside our list group, okay, it's a container div, elements. We can say all list items not last child. So I'm setting a rule, apply the border bottom to all list items excepting the last child. Okay, it's a simple example, but we have many features and advanced features to avoid this type of mistakes. I'm saying mistakes because if you have CSS to improve our performance, we can use it. Okay. 7. Use only CSS, JavaScript, vanilla to CSS or JavaScript and JavaScript to developer for the future. It's hard to say, but we try to don't use OutSystems and any dependency. And when I'm saying any dependency means don't use jQuery, don't use libraries from JavaScript, don't use libraries from CSS, don't use OutSystems UI dependencies, don't use OutSystems dependencies, okay? Or try don't use because you cannot avoid everything. Why? Because as you know, and probably you are feeling this, first of all, in terms of JavaScript libraries, JavaScript frameworks, we have 100, 1000, I don't know exactly, but we have many versions of Angular, many versions of React, many versions of Vue. We have Next.js. So we have many, many, many versions of JavaScript libraries that we can use. But one of concerns to use it is if you are using today a version of Angular, probably next year you already have another 2 versions, and you need to update your framework, your project to be aligned with the recently version. And this is have costs. And probably with OutSystems UI, we are feeling this. They change the OutSystems UI every week almost. And we are not aligned with these changes, these new features, these new versions. So what we try to do is try to avoid dependency. We cannot do it at all, and not 100%, but we can do it 80%. I will left some examples. For example, we changed in the few years ago from traditional to React. All components that we did in traditional doesn't work in React. Or not, because in certain time we create components only based in JavaScript and HTML and CSS vanilla. This means that we only did create components based on technologies that browser recognize. This means that some components that we did in the previous years in traditional projects works today in React only with some adjusts. Okay, this is true because if our components are based in JavaScript, are based in HTML and CSS, are based on browser, not in OutSystems. So what I'm trying to promote is one example. When we are creating a container inside our component and we need to set, for example, a margin in our container between description and title. Don't use CSS, OutSystems UI CSS classes, margin, button, base. Don't use it. Don't apply directly. Use it at CSS variable in your CSS. For example, if back into the previous, for example, between our title and our description, I cannot use the class margin button top. I will use a CSS variable applied to my description. In this case, card description. I will use a CSS variable inside from OutSystems UI. So in the future, if they deleted the OutSystems class, it still works for me with the OutSystems UI rules. Okay, try don't use features related with JavaScript. For example, if you are using today it's JavaScript, the business logic from OutSystems, it's based in JavaScript. But if you are using the actions from the platform, the client actions, to do some events to your component, try to avoid it. Use JavaScript. Create a class, create an object, and do it with JavaScript. Why? Because if they change the way how the platform do this type of behaviors and events, you are not connected directly with the platform and your component still works. Okay. Try to avoid it. Obviously, we cannot avoid input parameters, we cannot avoid placeholders, but if you try to avoid inside our core components the behaviors, the features from the platform, we can ensure that will work in the next version. Okay, and this is the main concern because we have new versions from OutSystems every year. Okay, so fear containers, easy to maintain. A powerful of CSS answer to almost everything in terms of UI. Okay, and the CSS probably, in my opinion, it's more complex than JavaScript. Okay, so as you can see in the image, we have a card, my cards, and with the simplest way have the elements and placeholders. We have image, title, descriptions, a footer, left actions, right actions. We can avoid footer also. Okay, what I'm saying is reduce the number of container or elements from your OutSystems, your component, UI components, and will be easy to adjust and adapt this component to different behaviors. Okay, because the CSS you already can align on left, on top, on bottom, do almost everything if the UI components have the right HTML, but we don't know exactly which will be the behavior and the UI. So we try to reduce the number of elements in HTML to be easier implement and apply different stats. Okay. One of the big mistakes that I see in OutSystems and in regular projects, it's like give, for example, if I have a title, I have a container and a placeholder title inside. So if I have one element, I don't need a parent, specific parent. I don't need a wrapper for only one child. Okay, this is the main rule. If you are adding a container with only a single placeholder inside, remove this container. If you are using a container with a link inside, remove this container. You don't need it. You only need containers when we have more than one child inside. Okay. 9. Use and enjoy the native browser components. So in the previous years, we saw how I say this, big alignment between browsers. One example is Microsoft. Finally, we have a Chromium-based browser, the Edge, Microsoft Edge. So this means that almost every browser, so far it's not totally aligned, but almost every browser versions are aligned today, and we don't see many difference. And this means that we can have new components, new HTML5 components. We lost the presentation. Was you, João?
I don't know. Let me put it back.
No worries.
It is on. It is on.
Thank you. So we saw many new features because this type of alignment, and also the CSS, not only the browser, the CSS. We have many new features to answer our common needs. And I can give you an example. In 1 year ago, probably 2 years, I don't know, we upload the input color component to the Forge. And this input color component, it's very easy to use. It's only drag and drop our component and have an assigned variable. And by default, open a color picker. We can choose the colors, so see the RGB. And I can say that it is not a custom component. It's only an input from HTML type color. So explore the HTML native controllers. Explore, read about HTML, because today we have range sliders. We can paste images. We can edit image by default without creating a JavaScript and even a complex component, because the browsers already have many of these type of needs. Okay, explore and be updated in terms of HTML, because by default, we can do 80% of our needs, okay? Next one, 10, Service Studio Preview. So as a front-end developer, we don't implement applications. We deliver UI components and other assets. It's common to say that we don't create applications, we create assets for the platform to help developers implementing those applications, okay? And one of our concerns, one of main goals is when we deliver code, when we deliver assets, be aligned with the best experience for developer. It's common to say that we don't do the things, the assets, the components, 100% the best way, 100% aligned with the best way, but 100% aligned with the best experience for developer, because developer knows a lot in terms of business logic and don't need to know everything in terms of code. So sometimes you need to do a step back and do the things not the best way, but the best to be understandable, okay? To know that will be an input parameter and not a JSON configuration, for example, okay? To have many flags, but not an expert documentation to implement the chart, okay? And one of our concerns, it's connected with the Service Studio Preview. So when we are in design time, when we are implementing the screen, we need to ensure that the experience for developer will be almost 100%. Obviously, it's not possible, but like the runtime. So if you are implementing a screen in Service Studio, you need to see what we'll have in the browser, okay? How we do it? You can add ifs, you can add weblogs, you can use many techniques, but the most usage and the best way is using Service Studio for properties, Service Studio CSS. As you can see in the right image, we have a component, a pop-up that probably will open when we click in the cart, for example, but we don't want to see this pop-up opened in Service Studio because probably we overlap our content. What we do is display block to be opened by default, but use for specific for Service Studio -display none. This means in design time we don't see this pop-up, okay? It can be used for scroll, for overlays, many things, but pop-ups, not also pop-ups, scroll events, scroll behaviors, it's common to use. And we have, if you try to search in the CSS from OutSystems UI, you will find many of those. One thing, this only be rendering in design time, but it's not appear in render time. If you inspect your CSS in the browser, you don't see it, okay? Pay attention, because sometimes we are copying CSS from the browser and paste in the platform, and we will remove the Service Studio Preview. It happens many times, because in the browser you don't see the property. I think we left a space, empty space, but we don't see it. If you copy directly the CSS from the browser, probably you can lost some Service Studio Previews, okay? CSS on theme, so connected with the previous topic. What we promote is only use one CSS theme to have everything that will be used in our application. You can use weblogs, you can use screens to have CSS. But if you don't centralize your CSS, probably in the future, you will have some concerns to maintain and to apply changes. Imagine, if you have a front-end developer, you only need to say, please change this file and apply your rules and your all changes here and give me back this file or edit directly in the platform. And works well. If you left CSS on the weblogs, on the screen, sometimes it's hard to find and you need to have another type of expertise. So someone that understands better the platform, okay? So if you need to apply some changes, small changes, it's be easier call someone that probably don't know a lot in terms of OutSystems, but know a lot in terms of CSS, and he can do the work, okay? Avoid using the styles editor and promote the use of Css Utility class. Probably, yes, you are reading right, you listen right. I'm trying to say not use, but try to avoid it when you want to implement an application that will be aligned in terms of visual guidelines between screens, between different applications. Okay, if you want to apply the same behaviors, the same user experience between your screens, try to avoid this type of tool. It's a great tool to implement a POC. It's a great tool to do some adjusts, but don't forget, if you are using the styles editor, probably will be hard in the future to adjust, to maintain your application, okay? Because it's generated code, you don't have control. And sometimes it's hard to know, okay, we have an issue in the components, in the screen, and we don't know what is applying this type of rule. Probably will be the styles editor, but you don't know it will be in a container, in the parent, in the link, in the button. You cannot see, you need to explore. So we spend many time answer to this type of issues, or those type of issues, when the developers using the styles editor, okay? I'm trying to promote, don't use styles editor, because we have a utility class from OutSystems UI, the margin borders, and those utility classes already do almost everything that everything that styles editor do for us. So if you try to use utility class, probably you don't need to think about spaces, because we have margin button, margin button, base, border radius. So we already have this type of rules applied to those utility class. And if you are using this styles editor don't follow the theme, don't follow the utility class. So you can do everything. You can set a font size specifically that you need to avoid. You can set each color you want. You don't follow the theme. So try to avoid it if you are implementing an application. If you are implementing only one screen or a POC, obviously you can use it. Okay. Next one. 13, create usable screen templates. So this is a feature from the platform, already exists in traditional version and also in a reactive. Screen templates are screens that are available in your factory that you can use it. Typically, already answer a specific business type, can be a form, can be a dashboard, can be a list, can be a gallery. So try to use it. But my suggestion is try create new template screens based on business logic. It's a best way to promote consistency and accelerate the development. One of our main goals is try to ensure that different teams create the same experience. So if we have forms, we need to ensure that the team A, the team B are creating forms in the same way, with the same user experience, with a vertical wizard, with the same margins between inputs, with the same components, because we need to ensure that the user from these applications have the same experience. But sometimes we have different teams to implementing those applications. So if you are try promoting screen templates, create the custom screen templates for your factory, probably will be easier to promote and accelerate also, because the code is already implemented, those applications, okay? And also app templates. We have screen templates and also app templates. Screen templates, it's a specific screen that can be used in different themes and different use cases, but with sample code. App templates, it's like a starter app. What the platform does for us is I left an app template installed in the platform the platform recognize this specific app template, show to the user when show to the developer, sorry, when developer starting implementing a new application and can choose this specific app template, and the platform will clone your app module and creating new application based on this app module. Some concerns: isolate layouts. Try to don't left dependencies. Okay, don't left HTML containers visible on the app template. So the layouts need to be in another module, in a centralized module, because if, for example, if you want to change the header, the menu, and these app templates are used in 100 applications, you only need to go in a single module and change the header and change probably the business rule or the UI. Okay, ensure that scaffolding works. So scaffolding is when you drag and drop an entity and create the screens for us. Ensure that your app templates are configured well to ensure to scaffolding. Promote the best experience menu. It's a concern in terms of menu. It's not aligning. It's not work well in OutSystems, but ensure that the OutSystems, the platform, it's aligned with the menu. The user can have the easier way. Developer can have new items, and pay attention to service study preview, as I said in the previous slides. So it's important to left a well service study preview because will be a base for all applications. Okay. Document well all UI components. The trend of design systems is not only about a type of subjects. Design system is important. Probably you already have listened about style guides. It's like a design systems, but design systems is more complex. But think about everything that you need for your application, probably other team member needs in the future for another application, or you also. So try to document all components that you create. Don't need to be complex. Only say that they exist and what solve, which parameters have probably, but try to be simple because it's hard to document, I know, but try give the first step. Add your component to the style guide if you have. If not, create a documentation for your components and share with the team. Because in the future, if someone needs something similar, they can use and reduce the time, promoting usage. And one of the best way to ensure that our components works well, it's try to promoting the usage. How many? So I can find a bug in your component if I'm not using your component, only your application can find the bug. If I'm using in two applications, I have 2 times more chance to find the bug. Okay, try to promote the usage because it's the best way to ensure that our components works well. Okay, and promote regular workshops. So our experience say that one of extra costs of the projects, development projects, are connected based on less knowledge, developers' knowledge. They don't know everything that exists that they can use. They don't know all behaviors from OutSystems UI components and platform widgets. So they already have this gap. Imagine when you are creating custom components. Try to promote workshops to share with the team new components, new behaviors, what they can use, what we have new to use, what we change. Try to promote a meeting to listen them, to listen what they need, and understand also the expertise. If exists someone that already have more knowledge and can share with the others. So try to understand the expertise level from your team, and also try to share what we are creating for them, okay, and how they can use. And that's it. We finish. I hope that will be helpful. Don't forget we have a blog, an article in our website that explains better the details.
It is in the description of this video.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I want to thank you too, David, for this great presentation. There was some insightful tips that you have presented us, and that's it. I will hope you all enjoyed this presentation from David, and to stay tuned for more masterclasses to come. Next month we will have our 13th masterclass, and with that said, I will also ask you if you can drop us a like and share this content. And that's it. Thank you all and enjoy summer.
Bye, everyone.